I visited providers that told me they did a study and it would take 52 different actions to get that share to that person. And then they started going into that. What were all the things they were doing that cost money that created those 50? And every step is a check. And then getting that down to 15 steps, which includes knowing, having a formulary, and knowing what manufacturer that I'm dealing with what product, that I can get this product at a certain time so I can still bill it out this month, and that my sales people, my RTSs, also get remunerated on that. A lot of dealers, providers, are in denial of that. That's running a business. So those are the things those are the things that I see, that there is a lack of, as Warren Buffett says, in business you have to play where the puck is going to be. And our industry is not, as a whole, the providers, all being there at playing where the puck is going to be. Competitive bidding, price reimbursement coming down, is not something that was for the first time published this morning in the newspapers. This has been coming for some time. We are fighting for better reimbursement, not to hold on to reimbursement. At the same time, you should plan not on hope, but on the future reality that's coming at us. That's the providers, that is for Invacare. And those providers that started planning 3, 5, 10 years ago on the future of our industry, not having the reimbursement that it had at that time, those are the providers that will not only survive, but actually prosper, because that will become a market share game. The same for the manufacturing side. We started planning, we have a term, and it's not just a term, it's called localization, which is rationalizing our operation, just like a provider do. So I think the denial part, Daniel, is the part that will hurt people that did not start early enough to see what the puck was going to be.
That's great, thank you. This one's going to be for Dr. Landers. We're going to switch gears a little bit. As far as physicians and healthcare professionals getting involved, in the fight to protect DME providers, HME providers, are they getting involved? Should they get involved? What are you seeing out there? And what's your general opinion on that?
In terms of one of the particular issues like this, face-to-face requirement, I myself have been, put out my views, and there are other, I think, physician professional societies that will share a concern about these face-to-face requirements. Although, on the surface, you would say, well, this kind of benefits the docs, it puts them more at the center, the patients that have to come to them. I think that any of us that know these patients and understand the access issues, particularly in the primary care in our health system right now, would be concerned about the impact of these requirements for patients. And also, there are some things that don't necessarily require a face-to-face encounter in a given time frame. You saw the person at a certain time in telephone-based and other types of communications that could suffice often, and that this is a hurdle. It's really, it looks like it could be an access barrier, and I don't think that was the intention. So, on that front, I have spoken up, and I have colleagues, and I know physician associations that will comment favorably. I think it's not all come out in wash yet, but in the chat I've heard a lot of support for the idea that these requirements, at least the time frame of implementing, is unrealistic. How we can get this up and running in January is kind of given all the other logistical issues that the healthcare system is facing. So I hope that physicians will speak out about that particular issue. And I think that in the short run, in terms of the reimbursement, I do suspect that in the event that there's a hospital throughput issue, related to some of these things. I think that you'll hear even more vocal input from the physician community, from the hospital community. If patients can't get what they need to get home from the hospital, it's going to be a problem. I think that will get some response. I certainly see it coming, and I've already said it's not a good idea to limit the number of providers in the marketplace. I think that's the way to address the challenges, because these markets are so different. Healthcare, even across the street from each other, can be so different from, let alone from market to market. So the variability is actually protective of the patient access on some level.
Great.
So, I
Yeah.
think that those are the main issues.
Yeah, so going back, JB, if we could, dovetailing off Dr. Lander's comments, if the technologies that we see from, and you've mentioned several, from glucose to the nano and et cetera, where do you see those technologies from the hospital to the home, and where does the providers play in that cycle? If you could address that.
Sure. The moving products from the hospital to home, in the earlier question I mentioned a few that already occurred, and some of the new ones would be that you could do in the home. Would be hospitals do breath analysis currently. They can tell a lot of things from your breath. Very expensive equipment. That can be made lower cost, so it could be placed in the home. All the things that Dr. Lander's already mentioned in terms of home money, which are available, are candidates for this. You could even do blood analysis in the home. That could be done. I've heard several physicians say that, what you really need to monitor is cardiac, O2 saturation, and glucose. Those three would give you a lot right there. Ventilators, there are already portable ventilators out, and I think those will be coming on a lot stronger. So, where does the provider come into this? Well, this equipment is going to have to be installed. The patient will have to be trained on how to use it. You can make things pretty reliable nowadays, but it will require service probably, especially at first. Like figure out how to make it super reliable. And so I think there's a huge role right here for the provider. Whether or not the provider would get involved in the monitoring itself, I'm not sure. But that could happen, or it could go to the hospital, or it could go to some independent organization that does the monitoring, or gets the data from the home and does something with it. So this is what I see the opportunity is. It's great, and it's pretty huge.
I agree with that. Joe, as far as the current conditions of oxygen, and on a day-to-day basis, what kind of traction has transfilling / home filling made? Have you seen providers invest, and where should they be going? I mean, Lou mentioned providers, suppliers having to understand where the puck's going to be, but what have you seen, and what kind of, again, traction have you seen in the industry?
Well, it's a great question. We've seen kind of three approaches to the adoption of new technology. There's always an early adopter segment, and among those, many of them have stuck with it. So there are folks who have been into the non-delivery using home fill, nearly a decade. Many of them are pretty heavily invested and have very different business models than some of their peer group. Right now, we're nearing 200,000 units of home fill that have been shipped domestically. So if you do the math, I mean, the imprint on the ambulatory oxygen population is becoming pretty significant. that number continues to grow. I think the product is starting to prove itself out both from a technical, clinical, and reliability standpoint to the place where it's becoming the standard of care, or at least a benchmark for other non-delivery technologies. I think that in other segments, there's we kind of classify in two other groups we talked a little bit this morning that we call them limited adopters, or folks that have looked to the technology to solve some of their problems, but not necessarily committed either because of price or behavior to applying it as a standard of care, where they're willing to put it out on a disproportionate number of their ambulatory patients. And then there's still a very large subset of customers who haven't adopted at all. And since the launch of home fill, there's been the launch of other technologies in the space, the portable concentrators. Although from our data and from the claims data, the traction there is still quite a bit behind. But I think that from a technology standpoint, we've got companies that are 100% non-delivery. We've got companies that employ it disproportionately in their ambulatory patients. So pretty much if they're ambulatory, that's their mode. And then we have folks who use it intermittently or selectively, whether it's a patient who lives very far from the branch or a patient who was a very high volume user, such as a patient who is going outpatient chemotherapy or going to dialysis 3 times a week. So they're known high expense patients. I think the big challenge, one was always the price tag, shifting the business model from an operational expense model, which is what we've done in the past, delivering tanks. Your whole business is built around all of these tasks and labor, and moving to a model where you're investing in technology that's a little bit more upfront, but really diminishes that. And I think this morning we talked a lot about there's a lot more going on behind the scenes in delivery. And I think that the big challenge for many of the customers, Daniel, is that I think that there's a lot of behaviors that evolve in your business that you get pretty warm and comfortable with. And you start to mistake delivery or certain tasks that you do that you've built that you believe are important to your business, or that your customers embrace, or you've embraced. Oftentimes it's more you than the customer. And you mistake those for care and important outcome. And it's hard to detach yourself from we deliver, we see our patients every week. Well, you can do other things that are more productive and even improve outcomes better than simply a delivery. So there's a change in mindset for those who haven't invested, but I think that the statistics are starting to show that the footprint's getting quite large in the technology.
Just there. Great. Thank you.